Hello and welcome. My name is Mr. Lee. This is a phonics and reading presentation for the grown-ups at home for foundation stage at Walton School and Nursery. So at Walter, we have a team of experts. They start with Mrs. Hargreaves, our head teacher. She has a thorough understanding of how children learn to read. Myself, I am the school's lead for English, literacy, reading and phonics. I'm an English specialist and have worked with other schools to improve their reading provision. And Mrs. Burnett, she is our foundation stage leader. She is an expert in early years teaching with a thorough understanding and in-depth subject knowledge of the foundation stage curriculum. So this is a simple view of reading. It shows that reading can be broken down to two processes or dimensions: word recognition and language comprehension. Phonics helps with word recognition or decoding words so they can be read. Phonics does not help with language comprehension, the understanding of what is being read. This is done through questioning and discussion before, during and after reading a book or a text. So by the end of the foundation stage, for reading, the children need to phonics and reading, recognise letter sounds, read simple words and sentences, and for comprehension and vocab, retell stories, anticipate events and use new vocabulary in discussions and play. And for speaking and listening, listening and responding, listening attentively, respond with relevant questions and comments and engage in conversations. Discussion and expression, participate in discussions, offer ideas, explain events and express thoughts and feelings using full sentences and new vocabulary. So why does reading matter? Well, reading is an essential skill for life. At Walton School and Nursery, we are dedicated to ensuring that all of our children are readers by the time they leave for junior school. Reading brings social, cultural and economic value to a person's life. If a child cannot read, it can have a lifelong impact. Developing children's spoken language. The skills for reading develop even before the children encounter a book. This is driven by the quality of talk by the grown-ups at home and the child's exposure to language and images. Children need to hear lots of different talk, conversations, instructions, questions, suggestions, etc. They will spend time listening to others. They'll absorb the talk around them, mimic it, and practice making different sounds and using new words. We have hundreds of toys and books to stimulate speaking as we try to make all of our learning fun. Let's take a look at the English language and why some of it is so complex. There are 26 letters in the alphabet. There's 40 plus phonemes or sounds in English language. They're accounting for regional dialects. And there are over 200 graphemes or written representations of these sounds. Sounds or phonemes can have one or more grapheme. For example, the sound S can be spelled with an S or a C. So phonics starts in what we call phase 1, and that's generally taught discreetly in Robin class or nursery. There are 7 aspects to this, and this allows the children to train up their ears so they can hear those different sounds, or to practice the different sounds they're going to need later on. You can pause the video and have a look at each aspect if you want to. So what is phonics and why is it so important? Well, phonics is a strategy used for word decoding, and we can also use it for spelling. Phonics is the prime method for decoding, that's reading, and encoding, that's spelling, newly encountered or unfamiliar words. Print to meaning. Phonics gives the children strategy needed for word recognition only. Language comprehension is primarily developed through our guided reading sessions. Phonics is about turning those marks on the page, the symbols or letters, into a sound. Here are some examples. What do the following symbols mean? Phonics has a lot of technical vocabulary. I'm not going to go through this. If you want to read it, you can pause the video in a moment. But the children learn all these different words whilst they're being taught their phonics, so they understand what's happening with the language. You can pause the video now and have a look at those. Enunciation and pronunciation of phonemes. It's very important to make the sounds of each letter or group of letters correctly. I'm going to show you those things in a moment. We teach children how to move their mouths and tongues to pronunciate the sounds. If the children have speech and language difficulties, this will be much harder for them to do, so they receive additional support in school. Alpha Blocks on the BBC website or iPlayer is very good at teaching the letter names and phonemes or sounds. The added schwa. The added schwa is the sound that we make. It's used a lot in spoken English. Many people add the sound onto phonemes and it should not be there. Be aware of this when you are saying the letter sounds or phonemes. So, for example, the letter M makes the sound and not m. The letter S makes the sound s and not s. Also remember to keep the phonemes nice and clipped and short, so not elongated. Think of them as short and snappy. So the letter M is M and not M, and the letter S is S and not S. Letters and phonemes. There's a difference between letters and phonemes. Think of the word letter as the name of the letter and the phoneme as the sound it makes. Alpha Blocks illustrates this very well on BBC. Don't be afraid to use these interchangeably. Use a letter name when discussing what letters make up a digraph. For example, OR is made up of the letters O and R, not O and R, and makes the sound OR. Here are some examples with the K sound or phoneme. So this is the letter K, and it makes the sound K as in kite. This is the letter C, and it makes the sound K as in cat. This is the digraph K as in wick. It is made of the letters C and K, and this is the digraph K as in school. It is made up of the letters C and H. So the letter H can cause a lot of controversy. People call this letter different things. To settle any disagreements at Walton School and Nursery, we'd like everyone to say it as H and not H. This letter, the letter Z, also causes some controversy. People call this letter different things. Some people refer to it as Z, and some other people refer to it as Z. Z is the American name for this letter. This is due to American television programs and media, and people learning American English more widely. However, in British English, it is called Z. Graphemes and phonemes. The children have 5 discrete phonics lessons a week. By the end of F2, the children expect to know all the following phonemes and graphemes. We're going to practice these together. S, A, I, So, the children taught those 6 phonemes and graphemes first. Have a think, pause the video, see what words you can make with these following 6 phonemes. So let's look at the remaining phonemes and graphemes. The children expected to learn all these sounds and be able to blend them when encoding or reading new words. O, E, A, R, B, S, V, W, X, Y, Z, Z, O, Z, A, E, I, O, U or R, O, ow, oi, So it's as in hammer, not It's because that's when the children first encounter that sound for the end of words. These are the common exception words. Common exception words used to be called tricky words. These words cannot be easily decoded or encoded using phonics. The children should be able to read most of these words on sight by the end of F2. I've split them into colour bands here, so they should be able to read all the pink, the red, and some of the yellow by the end of foundation. You can pause the video and have a read of those if you want to. Guided reading. We use a guided reading method. Our children read in small groups of up to 6 led by an adult. Each session starts with teaching or consolidating a skill for reading. The children explore the book and engage in discussions before, during and after reading. They might discuss the front cover, technical vocab, or their thoughts on the characters. This approach allows for high quality discussions using high quality texts. So our guided reading scheme uses a colour banding system. The children progress through the colour bands. They could be also considered levels. Below are the end-of-year expectations for each year group. By the end of F2, most children are securely reading red books. Some of them are reading yellow and a few of them are reading blue as well. That's just to show you the progression. Home reading books. The children take reading books home. This starts with 2 a week. The children are encouraged to change books themselves. Generally, they take home the colour band below what they're reading in school. This is to allow the children to practice and consolidate the skills they have been taught in school. It should be a challenging read, and the children will still need help and support with some words or the comprehension of the text. Please discuss the book before, during and after reading. Use illustrations to engage in discussion and talk about the characters, the setting or facts in the book. The children are expected to reread the book to help develop fluency, so read that book again another time just to get through it and so they have a good understanding. The children should use their phonics as the prime method for decoding or reading a word. However, if they're struggling, please just tell them the word. It should be a fun activity that is enjoyable. If your child's having an off day, then they're not ready to read. Leave it for another time. Reading for pleasure. We foster a love for reading at school and encourage you to do the same at home. Share your love of reading with your child and regularly read books together. It's important for children to see you reading as well, especially boys seeing men read. Discuss your favourite book, whether that's fiction or non-fiction, as we offer a wide variety of both. Rocket Phonics. We teach phonics through a scheme called Rocket Phonics. This includes phonics lessons, a reading scheme, a method for teaching handwriting, and many other things. Rocket Phonics allows for a good level of flexibility whilst ensuring rigour, parity, and a holistic approach to teaching reading. Phonics taught in class groups. Phonics is taught in the class and by the class teacher. Any children that are finding the work challenging will have an opportunity to revisit and secure the knowledge. The idea is that gaps are closed very quickly and rapidly. Some children may sit outside of this phonics provision, however these children will have other barriers to their learning. For example, they might have an EHC plan. Let's take a look at a Rocket Phonics lesson. We teach phonics daily. The children and the adults love their Rocket Phonics lessons. So all phonics lessons start with revisiting what the children have previously learned through the use of flashcards, and here's some examples of those below. The main teaching of the phonics session is done through a shared guided reading text. This is presented on the interactive whiteboard as a big book. The teacher reads through the story and shares the sound or phonemes for the lesson. The children have the opportunity to respond to questions and activities. Once the teaching is done, the children complete an activity in their workbooks. The tasks are designed so the children can demonstrate what they have learned and to practice their skills further. Adult support is still available if needed at this point. And home access to Rocket Phonics. The children will have access to Rocket Phonics at home. This is coming very soon. The login details will be sent home once this has been set up. And finally, all I have to say is thank you. And if there's any questions, please email the school or ask your class teacher. Thank you very much.